Okay, everyone, we're here with the Sequoia TRD Pro, and I'm going to take you guys on a drive out of this thing, mostly on-road routes, because that's where I think this thing is going to be driven the most. And let's go take a quick tour on the exterior for y'all that have not had a watch on my full review, which you definitely should do. But here is this beast in this kind of solar octane paint. I think it looks absolutely epic, especially out here in like a little bit of a wilderness setting here. I don't have too many really real off-road trails near me, but check out this absolute 6,000 pound monster of a truck right here. Really bold. So we have some 18-inch BBS wheels wrapped in all-terrain rubber here, forged wheels too. We have a light bar up front, big LED lights, a lot of black cladding. We have this really cool roof rack here that does unfortunately make a little bit of noise on the highway, which, you know, is going to be expected. I do really like this color, actually, especially contrasted with the black. Fitting for October, as it makes it look like a pumpkin too, which is kind of funny. You know, as a Sequoia, we do have the ability to open up the top rear glass separately than the boot itself, which is power, of course. Nice, cool feature there. Dual exhaust. This is actually a sport exhaust system too, because, you know, Toyota likes to mess around. You know, it's a really good looking truck, actually. But let's take it out on the road and see how it drives. Nice, some steps right there to get in. All other floor mats, of course. And let's head out. I have my cooled seats on, which did make a little bit of noise, actually. I'm just going to turn a little bit of air on. It's a little bit toasty in here right now. Now, the cool thing about this thing is that it has a pretty unique powertrain. So this has what Toyota calls their hybrid max powertrain, or iForce Max powertrain. And it combines a twin turbocharged V6 with a 3.4 liter V6 under the hood with a hybrid motor, and it's making a pretty healthy amount of power. We have around 437 horsepower and over 580 pound-feet of torque. Now, getting into this thing, it is not, and I will repeat this, it is not a real efficient hybrid vehicle whatsoever. This powertrain was tuned for torque as well. I believe this hybrid system is really tuned for kind of almost turbo lag fill. So it's kind of filling in that lower end of the turbos where they need a little bit of time to spool up to kind of give you that extra oomph of energy, as well as that kind of instant electric boost to give you that instant torque rating, which is actually pretty helpful in some off-road situations when you need it. Let's get out of here and onto the actual roads for you guys. And that also comes at the I guess benefit of having a lot of power, actually, even for this 6,000 plus pound SUV. It's pretty peppy, and honestly, since this used to have an old big naturally aspirated V8, I don't miss that whatsoever. It doesn't get good MPGs at all. This actually, I have been averaging 16. I just reset this, so ignore the 12 miles to the gallon. I've been getting around 16 to 18 miles to the gallon, but that is significantly lower than the EPA rated like 20-ish miles per gallon. And I have to say that rating is for the regular Sequoias and not the TRD Pro. So if you can check in this little economy meter here, if you really want to check that out, you'll see some information there. Nothing too crazy. You can cycle through a few menus here. It isn't the most configurable gauge cluster whatsoever. You really just have that little gauge on the side, but nonetheless, not the best MPG, but it is a significant improvement over the old V8. And we're up to the speed limits over here. It's peppy and potent as well, I have to say. It's a really cool sounding powertrain. Toyota fitted this TRD Pro with a sport exhaust system as well, which actually sounds pretty good. It doesn't even sound like a V6. It kind of sounds like a low burbly V8, which I don't understand how they did it, but they did it. You could even hear some kind of turbo swooshes sometimes when the big turbos are spooling up. Kind of cool. You have a boost gauge here, as well as a max gauge, which kind of shows you the inputs of the electric motor and this powertrain, which is kind of cool. So I'm on it right now and see the boost is kicking in and the hybrid motor. But I've noticed at lower speeds, actually, the electric motor is really on more so than the turbos, which is pretty interesting. On-road performance is honestly pretty good for this thing. And you know, these big body on frame vehicles tend to let in a lot of vibrations and kind of unsettling behavior from the road. This doesn't actually tend to do that. Suspension's surprisingly a little bit more firmer than I was expecting. Generally it is pretty good at soaking up some bigger bumps, though on summer harsher pavement I have noticed some kind of like jittering. This does have a live rear axle actually, and as well as it has the hybrid batteries back there, so that actually eats into a lot of rear cargo space, but I guess Toyota wanted to keep that for some off-roading prowess. This has a lot of goodies, but what it doesn't have, and it's a little bit disappointing, is it doesn't have a full-time four-wheel drive system. It has that lockable differential, yes, it's optional, it has selectable four-wheel drive, but it doesn't have a full-time four-wheel drive system, so you have to put it into 4 high or 4 low when you want all 4 wheels to be turning. Otherwise it operates in 2 high mode, and that's an interesting little tidbit there, because a lot of people these days are kind of expecting to get into these vehicles, especially one that's around $80,000, and just kind of leave it in an auto setting most of the time. Sure, I can, maybe Toyota's kind of tuning a little bit towards a more enthusiast off-roader or overlander here with this vehicle, but I'm surprised that's not kind of offered here. Otherwise, there's a lot of kind of off-road goodies in here, and like I said, fantastic camera systems. But you know, this thing's gonna be driven on road most of the time, and generally it's pretty good. You know, it's huge, it's a huge vehicle. The hood is really long as well, so you do have to get used to the visibility, and you do have those 360 cameras to help you in some situations if you need it. This one does have the giant optional towing mirrors, so they are absolutely massive and definitely will further eat into your MPGs if you do care about that as well, but they're useful for towing. Otherwise you will get smaller mirrors if you don't opt for that particular package. Otherwise it's a pretty nicely equipped interior. I wouldn't say it's the highest material quality interior for around $80,000, but you are getting a lot of just general features. Like, I do like this steering wheel. It's generally good to use, big and chunky. You have the TRD Pro badge on the bottom, a little bit of red insignia up here, and this is all leather. This is pretty much the only leather here and the gear shifter in this vehicle. Otherwise it's kind of like this Toyota Softex material that is, I guess, kind of good for rugged applications, but you know, $80,000, you're not getting leather, and just some of the things in here feel a little bit cheap and plasticky, especially this center console. Nonetheless, it does have Toyota's full safety suite, which is pretty impressive actually for an off-roader. I don't typically see a lot of off-road vehicles coming with this, though, as this is being an $80,000 kind of fully loaded big flagship vehicle from Toyota, it is nice that they're including it. And I mean a full suite. So if I activate this button right here, radar cruise is now active. I can put on my speed, I can set my speed, I have my following distance, it has lane departure warning, it has lane keep assist, so it actually will steer itself too, which is pretty impressive. Now this is a big vehicle, and I have noticed actually that it doesn't like to steer itself as much as the other Toyota vehicles around some sharper bends. So again, you are always supposed to have your hands on the wheel. It's not a hands-off system whatsoever, but it does work pretty well, and it is nice for those highway drives when you are kind of cruising on some longer distances. Pretty good system actually. It's nice that it is included on this Sequoia. Again, the digital gauge itself isn't super configurable. There is no heads-up display whatsoever on offer. Even in the full-on capstone model, the higher end kind of luxury version of this truck, you don't have a digital heads-up display on there, which is a little bit unfortunate. Though you do have this massive, truly massive touchscreen in the center. I heard the lower trims do get a smaller touchscreen, though I mean, I don't know how much smaller you can really get here. Whoa. A little bit of some aggressive shifts there. It does have a 10-speed automatic gearbox as well, which honestly kind of fades into the background most of the time. You'd never really notice it, which is perfectly fine for this type of vehicle. And we are driving in 4 high right now, and I've noticed in 2 high, that torque really comes noticeable in those rear wheels of kind of like broken tracks just a little bit on some wet surfaces. And I was just on a little bit of a muddy trail road back there, and it definitely needed to be in 4 high to get through it, because remember, this thing's heavy. and you do need kind of all four wheels spinning in certain situations to kind of get it out of some slick stuff. And there's a lot of competitors to this Sequoia as well. Things like the Ford Expedition as well as the Chevy Tahoe are some pretty notable ones, and they also come in some kind of off-road style trims as well, with a lot of these features at a lower price point than this Sequoia. It's pretty expensive of an option here, though I will say you're getting some unique Toyota-esque things, such as this iForce Max powertrain, the TRD Pro badging and off-road goodies as well, which I think is really cool and unique features here. Nonetheless though, guys, this is a pretty interesting vehicle, and I've had some kind of interesting graps with it. You know, storage is a little bit tough on this thing due to the platform and the packaging, and fuel economy isn't the best, but that's something that's going to be pretty common in this class. Though the kind of TRD aspect of it, that badging, the goodies you're getting here, reliability you are going to be expecting, hopefully with Toyota, even with this new powertrain, is there. And I think that's going to kind of convince a lot of buyers, especially the residual values on this thing, because let me tell you, it's hard to get it ready, and if you're going to want something on the used market, and Toyotas in general hold their value very, very well, and I can tell you this thing will not be dropping value anytime soon. Nonetheless, everyone, thank you for joining me on yet another drive with Allcarnews and this Toyota TRD Pro Sequoia. Anyways, stay tuned for more coming soon, and make sure to check us out on all major platforms.